Hey, this is Alex Yoder with Pro Tip Tuesday, my favorite day of the week, and I am losing my voice, so I'm going to try to get through this. But today I want to talk about tenant versus owner responsibility as it pertains to maintenance in a residential lease situation. Now, I'll talk first about how our company operates because I think it works really well. Basically, in our lease, if a repair requires special licensing, special tools, or special training, or is over $100, then we as the management company for the landlord will take care of it. That works really well because if it's something like appliance, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, then those fall under either special licensing, special tools, or special training. But also, if a whole 3 sections of fence fall down, or the exterior of the house has to be painted, or something more major, we will also take care of those items because I want to make sure that they're repaired properly. Whereas if it's a light bulb or a filter or a battery or one picket falls off the fence, those things we would have the tenant take care of because it's a reasonable expectation for the tenant to handle those items. And so that's kind of the line that we've drawn, and I think it works really well. So that's just my advice. Go about it however you'd like, but that's my advice on how to address that. Now, back in the day, I saw leases all the time where the first X number of dollars of any invoice would be the tenant's responsibility. So whether it's a $100 toilet repair or a $3,000 furnace replacement, the tenant's going to pay $100 of each of those invoices. And the idea behind that, of course, is to have the tenant take some of the ownership and responsibility of some of those costs. But the problem is that in a residential situation, tenants will just push those things off because they don't want to have to pay anything. And so now when you go to turn the property over and the tenant vacates, you find that the home has been poorly maintained and nothing went reported. And so now you have to drop a huge dollar amount to get all those items fixed that were not reported because, again, the tenant didn't want to have to pay that portion of those invoices. So a lot of management companies and landlords are getting away from that kind of lease policy and just setting up more of a middle-of-the-road agreement where, hey, we'll pay for the big stuff if you pay for the small stuff, basically. And I think that works really well. The other thing is that, excuse me, my voice is still going out here. The other thing is that in the contract itself, there's kind of a difference of opinion in how vague or specific you should be about who is taking care of what. Some companies like to be more vague with their language than specific because they feel like it hooks them more. If they didn't specifically define it, then they may be liable, whereas vague sort of allows them more control over that. But in my opinion, specific is the way to go, even if you have to more intentionally create lease language with the help of your attorney to address each of those different items. That's one of the reasons that our company has a maintenance addendum, because it goes through all those little specifics. So for example, if I send over an electrician and they just flip a GFCI, well, tenant, you should have done that, so you're paying for it. So it goes into that kind of detail. And the beauty of being that specific is it sort of helps eliminate that argument. I don't want to be at odds with my tenants. I want them to be happy. And one of the best ways I can do that is to sort of set that expectation, but also to have that language to back me up in case there was a disagreement. Like, hey, why am I being charged for this electrical bill? Well, here's the sentence that specifically addresses that. You called in a electrical outage, and now we have this invoice, and you should have flipped that GFCI. Even if they're not excited about it, at least we have language specifically addressing that. Where if you were vague, it's not going to kill the argument, and you're going to have kind of ongoing resentment from your tenant kind of going forward, and you really don't want that. One of the most important things that you can do as a landlord is keep your tenant happy. Have a good relationship with your tenant. Happy tenants pay on time, generally maintain properties better, and stay longer. And all of those things, the opposite, costs you money. So if for no other reason than your bottom line, keeping your tenant is happy is very, very important. So don't forget that. The other thing is, when you are looking at maintenance, it's very important that you, of course, maintain your properties and keep them in good condition. A lot of this legislation that's passed recently with the warranty of habitability is targeting bad landlords. And unfortunately, the language is written in a way sometimes where it hurts good landlords. And so, be a good guy. Be the good guy. Take care of people. They're going to stay longer. They're going to be happier. It's going to be a major win-win for everyone involved if you think about it that way. But if you're just trying to avoid spending money and you're trying to kind of defer all that maintenance, I think it's going to cost you in many other ways, not the least of which is turnover. Property turnover is the biggest way that you can lose money in an investment. When properties are vacant, you're making no money on that rent, if that's not obvious. So keep tenants in there, keep them happy, and maintain those properties. If you as a landlord don't want to spend money to fix your property or properties, you should not be a landlord, period. Now, there are going to be cases where there is damage caused by a tenant, and I'm referring to just general ongoing maintenance, but there are also going to be times where tenants blatantly cause damage to your property. And even though we work really hard to avoid those things in our tenant screening process, and it generally works, you want to at least know that that can happen and make sure that if it does happen, it doesn't bury you. If one bad apple tenant who caused several $1,000s of damage to your property is going to kill you financially, you shouldn't be renting out a property, period. You should not be renting out a property if one bad tenant's going to kill you on the financial side. So just some things to think about here for maintenance on rental properties. And that's all I had for today. Again, Alex Yoder, Pro Tip Tuesday. We will see you next week. Goodbye.